Good evening. It's Thursday, April 1st, 2021, and coming to you live from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamm Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamm. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
What's going on, everybody?
I gotta fix that. I don't like the fact that you get applause.
You're the one who controls it. Just give yourself the applause.
You know what? The audio people.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Yeah, they're overpaid. So we're live streaming on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Lamm Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamm Sports Show. You can send us an email, lammsports@gmail.com, and please check out our webpage.
That works.
Lammsports.com. You can find links to the past shows. Current trivia question is usually uploaded there. I say it's always on there, but you know what? Sometimes it's not. I mean, what are you going to do? My IT people are
overworked.
Yeah, overpaid and definitely don't, not highly qualified.
That's fair.
I mean, so I don't know if that's fair. The first segment of the show is brought to you by The Range. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at, wait a minute, I don't even have it up. See, it's causing me grief. At 30, I thought I had it ready. You asked me if I had it ready. You said
I did. I checked with you on all of this stuff.
All of that was correct. And then still, what did I give you?
Not ready.
The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail firearm sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services, all under one roof. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 7, Sunday 11 to 5. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. The phone number is 509-571-1449. Make sure you mention the Best Lamm Sports Show. The Range, educate, equip, and empower. I was at The Range last night.
Yeah.
Yep. Shot a couple of different 9mm pistols. Thinking about buying one.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And then of course I shot our 38, which I had the trigger mechanism. What's the word I'm looking for? Dialed down so it's easier to pull.
Adjusted.
Let's go with adjusted.
Adjusted the weight on the trigger,
and it fires great. It's easy. You don't have to pull hardly at all. It's just a little touch and it goes, which is great because it helps with the accuracy. Because when when it's hard to pull, you're yanking the pistol.
Oh yeah.
Long story short, go see our friends at The Range.
Yeah.
Because anyway, so we got a lot to talk about. Pac-12 got 3 teams into the Elite Eight, which was fantastic. There's one left in the Final Four. We have a Final Four, which is important. The Blazers are hanging out in that 6th playoff spot. They made one trade near the deadline. We're going to talk about that. Formula One had its first race of the year in Bahrain. We're going to talk about that. And if you weren't paying attention, the Supreme Court heard arguments on Wednesday on Alston versus the NCAA. And if you don't know what Alston versus the NCAA is, you need to go look up the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, and then you'll completely get it.
Sure.
Because that's the ruling that they're basing this on. We can talk about that later in a minute. We might have to have a whole show or segment about name, image, and likeness, and or getting paid for playing in college. Because I think that's a big deal, and we're going to have to do that. But we'll do it after the NCAA tournament's over, I think.
That sounds right.
But yeah, go check out the Sherman Antitrust Act. If you read all the rules about that, that is exactly what they're fighting about, saying that it's illegal for the NCAA and its member institutions to collude against players and hold them from getting paid a certain amount of money, whatever they're entitled to, the free market. Let's call it that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I described it fairly well, considering I'm not a lawyer.
Considering we're not going to go into it, yeah, you did.
Yeah, we're not going to go into it. So we're absolutely not. So we want to go to the trivia question. So trivia question brought to you by Stone Wine Estates in Hood River, and we need to go see our friends at Stone Wine Estates. Both gosh, I am really having a hard time. I need to slow down. Both locations are open. The winery at the Vineyard, 3827 Fletcher Drive, 7 days a week, 12 to 6, patio dining. The downtown tasting room is 210 Oak Street. It's 12 to 6 Thursday through Sunday. Go to stavenstone.com and check out their selection of award-winning wines and make a reservation. You're going to need one. And go taste for yourself. Call 541-946-3750. That's wine. That's 541-WINE-7. See? I'm like way ahead of myself. 541-WINE-750. Or email them, info@stavenstone.com for more information. Staven Stone, wines with personality. And I apologize right now to Jill for screwing that all up. But we have a trivia question, which is, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Trivia question this week is, what is the record for the quickest disqualification due to fouls? That's fouling out, in case you didn't understand.
In basketball?
In NBA history.
Okay.
NBA, not college or anything like that, but 6 fouls in the NBA. You get 6 before you're disqualified. What's the record for the fastest disqualification? Guy who picked up 6 fouls and got out. Not a technicals or any of that stuff. Just regular fouls.
Okay.
Okay. That's the question. When did it happen? Who was it? That's, there's always 2 parts to the question. That's always a trick question. So we want to talk about a lot of things, but most importantly, we want to talk about the NCAA tournament because we're down to Final Four. And on Monday night, the University of Houston ended Oregon State's run, which was amazing that they got to where they got to be honest with you, right? One of those 3 teams in the Elite Eight was Oregon State, a 12 seed. I think it's the highest seed to reach the Elite Eight in, might be ever, but it was definitely in a long, long time. They had a tremendous run to include the Pac-12 tournament and whatnot. Houston beat them 67-61, sent Houston to their first Final Four in 37 years since Clyde Drexler was a player at the University of Houston. The Beavers fell behind early, and they battled back to make a game of it. At halftime, it looked like they were just out. It was done.
It did not look good.
Yeah, but they came back. They came storming back. But right at the end, in the last 2 minutes, they couldn't hit the shots they needed. Couldn't get the things that they need. Couldn't get the rebounds. Definitely offensive rebound was a thing. Houston had 19 offensive rebounds. And they just seemed too athletic for Oregon State, who has been a more athletic team than all the teams they've played to this point. So kudos to Houston. They look good. I thought, I don't know if they look like a Final Four team. I don't know if either of these teams look like a Final Four team. But Houston is a number 2 seed, and they're there for a reason. They've won a lot of basketball games. So they're going to the Final Four. You watch a game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What was your impression of that game?
It was pretty good. They did a fairly good job. They definitely used every bit of everything they had left. And when Houston finally made that last little push, they had nothing left that worked. So I felt like Oregon State was the beneficiary of some really good matchups. Tennessee did not have a lot of size. Oklahoma State did not have a lot of size. Loyola Chicago did not have a lot of size. They played a lot of Tennessee by 24 or 14, sorry, and then they beat Oklahoma State by 10, and then they beat Loyola Chicago by 17. So yeah, they won every one of their games pretty convincingly, and then they got to Houston and they found some size.
Yeah.
And it was a little difficult for them. Silva couldn't just eat in the paint, and Altuche couldn't be as athletic as he wanted because he had a defender on who was an equal size, speed, and things like that. So I don't know. I feel like they just kind of finally met a match, and it exploited some of their issues. That being said, this was a tie ball game with like 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
so
they were right there. I mean,
yeah.
I at first thought this game was over. Houston was clicking.
I kind of tuned out when it was like a 20-point game or something like that. I was like, this is done now. And then I tuned back in the second half.
It was correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 34-17 at the half. It was something like that.
All right.
Let me look here so that I can give you an accurate update. Yeah, it was 34-17 at the half. So Oregon State only scored 17, and they hadn't scored in 4+ minutes of the first half. They just hadn't scored. And Houston took advantage and went up. And then Houston went flat a couple times in the second half, especially at the end. Houston had, with 9.5 minutes to play in the second quarter, Houston had 52 points. right?
Yeah.
And the rest of the way, they only scored what 15. So the second half of the second half, there was like 3 different little spurts, and most of those were free throws at the end.
Yeah.
Houston hit 5 free throws at the end of the game in the last minute. That helped them, but there was a lot of dead time where Oregon State came roaring back. They just couldn't quite pull it off. Um,
Here's what I'll give to Houston, though. They scored 34 in the first half and 33 in the second half.
yeah, it was
That's
consistent.
pretty consistent. And then in the tournament as a whole, I mean, they kicked the crap out of Cleveland State, but in their next games, they scored 63, 62, 67. And then they played so like
And
those are pretty consistent scores.
and to be fair, Houston shot 32% from the field in this game.
Yeah, that's not fantastic.
Which is terrible, but they got all those offensive rebounds. The rebounds were just ridiculous, and Oregon State had no answer for the offensive rebound.
It was a size issue. You know, they when Oregon State played Oregon and Loyola and all these teams, you know, leading on this tremendous run that led him here, they always had the center size matchup. You know, Silva is so much larger than everyone else. He was grabbing second chance boards and things like that. He couldn't do it in this game as much.
Houston played 8 players in this game, 7 of which had an offensive rebound.
Jeez, so but that means you're missing shots long too.
And it's true.
Don't get those inside rebounds.
They were missing a lot of shots. They missed a lot of shots. And the one thing that Oregon State had done well during this playoff run was shoot free throws, and they did not shoot free throws well. 55%, 11 of 20 on Monday night. That's what caused a lot of this. Had they shot at the 80% clip they were shooting or more for the playoffs, they would have been in a lot better shape. But
I'll tell you something that struck me as weird is that Houston's 3-point shooting percentage was better than their overall shooting percentage.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to believe, and I'm trying to remember it the best I can, that there were a lot of plays where they were kind of putting I know they had a couple at the end of the game where they just heaved it up because there was a shot clock issue. Gotta get rid of it. Yeah. So those are kind of washes, but I felt like there were a bunch of plays early in the game when it was still kind of slow to start, where they were putting up, short shots that were super contested. Maybe they thought there were fouls. Maybe they were like layups that they thought there should have been fouls on that they just kind of gave up on. And it's like, well, these are, half-ass shots. So I don't know, it was a really weird game to watch, but at the end of the day, they both made, Houston made a run first, Oregon State made a run second, Houston made a run last.
Yeah, at Oregon State, Zach Reichley, who has been a three-point specialist, let's call him that for lack of a better term, but he had 1 field goal attempt in the game. 1.
Yeah. And he only played 16 minutes.
He didn't hit it, and he had 3 free throws. He was 3 for 3 from the free throw line, but he only ended with 3 points. And he only played 60 minutes, you're right. But Ethan Thompson, who also has been phenomenal in this tournament, he was 3 of 12 and 0 for 2 from three-point land.
Yeah.
So that hurt them a lot. Everyone else kind of did what they normally do. Even Josh Lucas was not the right – Jared Lucas, sorry, was not the right – he didn't look right. You know what I mean? He didn't seem like he was on, and Oregon State was definitely not on in the first half. They were just not there.
And those were all keys to their other victories, was big, timely 3-point shots.
Right. But Oregon State scored 44 points in the second half.
They did. But they only scored a little bit in the first half.
They made it tight. It just wasn't enough. Anyway, it was fun to watch Oregon State's run. It really was. And as a Pac-12 fan, I'm an Oregon Duck fan, but I will root for Oregon State when they're not playing Oregon because I want Oregon to do well, and I want the Pac-12 to do well.
I was rooting for him, and you heard me after the first 2 games when I told him, I was like, I just want him to win. I want him to win and it not look like the other team was just bad. Well, they did that against Loyola.
Yeah, they did.
And I thought that was perfect. I had no complaints after that game. And I was like, oh, they look like the real deal. And then they went up against Houston, and it was what it was. So it made me reflect on their run a little more positively, because going into the Loyola game, I was like, I don't know if this team's really worthy of all this yet.
And even this game was good enough for you to go, wow, they definitely can play with anybody that's in this tournament, probably.
Yeah, a couple 3, maybe a 3 or so here, and maybe Houston misses one there, and now you're talking about a tie game.
Right. So the rest of the Final Four is set also. So let's talk about that. Baylor beat Arkansas 81-72 also on Monday, earned their first trip to the Final Four in 71 years. Yeah, the Bears jumped out to a 7-point lead, and they never trailed. That's one of those things where you see a game and you go, it never really was that close. It was a close game, and then it was a 9-point game. It wasn't like a blowout, but it was never out of reach. but it was never in doubt at the same
Right.
point in time. And Baylor looked
If you were Baylor, you still had to play well
right.
to keep it away.
And Baylor looked athletic and long. They've got some very athletic. That if they were to play Houston, that's going to be a good match. That
Yeah,
game
that's
right
gonna be
there,
great.
I'd pay to watch. We'll see if that happens. But anyway, they looked like the better team. Baylor just looked better than Arkansas, and Arkansas just didn't quite have it right from the get go. They were behind, and it just never seemed right. The other Final Four, two teams. Number 11 seed UCLA defeated number 1 seed Michigan 51-49 and made it to the Final Four. They you know what? That game was ugly. Um, Defensive struggle. You can call it that, or you can call it poor offense. Either one would be fine. I'd accept either answer. But it was not. It was not what you expect in terms of a Final Four matchup. You normally expect a couple teams that could score, right? And it's whoever has the ball last and they score last. No, this was whoever made the best defensive stop at the end. And UCLA just happened to do that. I didn't know. I don't know that UCLA is the better team, but if you hold the number 1 seed in your region to 49 points, you probably deserve to win.
You've probably earned at least a spot in the conversation.
Yeah, and UCLA is now in the Final Four, and it has a chance to be the first team ever to be a play-in winner.
Yeah, that's pretty huge.
And win 7 games to win the national championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never happened. So
also, way to represent the pack. Not a bad
right?
deal for there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel like they're capable of beating any of these teams. I don't feel like they're not like they're outmatched. I will say Gonzaga looks like the best team in the field. Maybe Baylor. I don't know. Until those two teams play, I don't know who the better team is. We talked about this offline,
Yeah.
but one of those two teams is probably the best team in the tournament. But I don't think that UCLA is like so far behind either of those teams that they would get blown out. I don't know that, but USC got blown out, which is the other Final Four. Number 1 seed Gonzaga crushed number 6 seed USC 85-66 to earn their spot in the Final
That was
Four.
an ugly game.
Yeah, for USC for sure.
Yeah, they made them look really bad.
Yeah, USC did not look good, and that's a team with a Pac-12 Player of the Year, Evan Mobley. And
I mean, he might be National Player of the Year in my opinion.
He's
really good.
Yeah, he's really good. If you haven't watched Evan Mobley, you're missing out. Well, you don't get a chance now, but he is long, athletic. He can shoot. He can rebound. He does a lot of things well. He passes the ball very well.
I told AJ, my roommate, I said, do you remember? You ever seen the game highlights of Lou Alcindor? And he said, oh yeah, Lou Alcindor. And I'm like, what was his name after that? He's like, who's he always just Lou? I'm like, no, he had a different name, but that doesn't matter. I was like, watch his highlights. I know it now, but why? I was like, watch his highlights. He has the same kind of like long, overextended build, and he's really capable of all these like really kind of, but he's really delicate with like his passes and his movement. It all looks really smooth and fluid. He's on another level, this Mobley kid.
Yeah, he's really, really good. And his brother plays on the team. And they have a certain chemistry that you can't coach. Because
his brother's a big 3-point shooter.
Yeah, two guys have been growing up together playing in the backyard. You know, they made it sound like these guys are in sync because they played together growing up. And I was like, you know exactly what happens in the backyard with your older brother, right? Is that your older brother beats on you. He isn't taking it easy on you. He isn't playing on your team. You guys aren't playing together. He's trying to beat the tar out of you. That's what happens. So that helps the younger brother advance because that's literally I'm speaking from the younger brother standpoint. That's what happened. I got the tar beat out of me every time we played basketball until I was in about a freshman, maybe an 8th grader freshman, somewhere in that ballpark, and I started having more skill, and then it was I don't want to play anymore. So I'm just saying, if they got good, it wasn't because they created an environment where they played together. It was because one guy made the other one better.
That's right.
That's just kind of how it happens. Anyway, USC also is the team that knocked out Oregon out of the Sweet 16 with their 82-68 win. And we talk about Oregon being in the Sweet 16. They only played one game.
Yeah, they really
to get
did.
there. I mean, and they beat Iowa, which was a great win. It was a big deal. Except now looking back at the fact that the Big Ten didn't get a single team into the Final Four, got one into the Elite Eight out of the 9 that they put in the tournament.
Yeah.
It made me not so big.
Yeah, but overrated. Overrated
But
this year.
but Luka Garza was named today the Player of the Year, by the way.
Ugh.
You know what?
Ugh.
I find it hard to disagree with. He was good, so I'm not gonna disagree. I'm not gonna say
But it
poo-poo
flows right
that
into the train
selection.
of thought. Was he good in an overrated conference?
Both.
So if he's good in an overrated conference, does that knock him down a notch? If he's a 10 in a group of 8s, is he actually an 8?
Are we are we gonna pull the Gonzaga conversation out again? Because I feel
we'll do that another. So we'll do that after this. After they play.
All right. We have a whole nother conversation that we talked about offline today, and it got a little heated because we have a disagreement in terms of whether Gonzaga's good or not. I guess is the question.
The Oregon USC game though, that was a huge one because we talked about consistency.
Yeah.
41 points in the first half, 41 points in the second half for USC. Oregon pulled in Oregon State.
Right.
It did 26 in the first half and 42 in the second half, so they definitely picked it up. They just nowhere near enough
in the first half. It was too much to overcome.
They looked like they did the last time they played USC, but a little better because that one they got blown out the whole game. In this game, they got it back to a 4-point game.
Yeah.
And then lost grip on it again.
It just didn't feel right the whole way. I don't know. Maybe
nope.
It looked bad. They didn't have that whatever it is.
Well, I mean, we started with a 12-3 lead.
That je ne sais quoi. That we
whatever. That I don't know what.
Right. A certain I don't know what. Okay, let's talk about the NBA.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
So I'm looking at the Eastern Conference standings. Everyone should be looking at the Eastern Conference. If you got this up on video, you're looking at the Eastern Conference standings right here. Brooklyn Nets finally took over the Eastern Conference lead at 33-15. They're a half game ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers. Not that the Sixers have done anything terrible. They lost 2 in a row. They're still 7-3 in their last 10. Brooklyn's 8-2 in their last 10. That's the one game difference where they took over. Brooklyn's won 3 straight. I still think, and I think we both think, Brooklyn is the best team in that Eastern Conference.
Well, they added Blake Griffin. How could you not think it?
And they added LaMarcus Aldridge. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, they've got everybody.
It feels like a big deal, and I don't know how much either one of them is going to help. I mean, it can't hurt, I don't think, but you're talking about 2 veterans. You didn't add a young guy with lots of energy. You
added former All-Stars.
It's true. They're both great players, or were at one point in time.
And Blake Griffin might still be an All-Star. Who knows? He's been tucked away in Detroit for the last few years.
Yeah, that's not a great place to play anymore.
It's like getting sent to the Magic. It's just a death sentence for your career.
So Milwaukee Bucks are the only other team we're talking about in the East. They are 30-17. They're 2.5 games back in the East. Those 3 teams are clearly the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Everybody else is 500 or less. Well, Charlotte's in there a little over 500, but everybody else is kind of meh. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not buying any of them. They're interchangeable.
And Boston is still plummeting towards the cellar, by the way. They're 3-7 in the last 10. This is a team that used to be the number 3 team in the East. They're now the number 8 team, holding on to the last playoff spot only by a game over Indiana. And Indiana's played better over the last 10 games than Boston has. It just looks terrible for Boston. I don't know what happened to them. They have talent.
I felt like they started this year really terrible, though.
Oh, I don't know that.
I felt like they started the year really god-awful. Everyone gave them a whole bunch of crap. They picked it up. They got a lot better for a while, and now they're kind of trending backwards. It's a game of runs.
It could be. And when you look at the Western Conference, it's clearly Utah. I watched the end of the Utah game last night in their throwback uniforms, the green ones.
Those are pretty cool.
They're pretty cool. And so those of you who don't know, and I had to explain this last night, I got asked the question: is why does Utah have green and purple as their uniform colors, right, on some of these uniforms? And I said, well, they don't normally. That they've changed their colors away from the green and purple, but when they do the throwbacks, it's green or purple or yellow because that's where did they come from? Does anybody know out there in the audience where the Utah Jazz came from? Well, they came from New Orleans.
Yeah, it's the Mardi Gras colors.
They were that's the Mardi Gras colors from the New Orleans Jazz, where they came from. So it's historic to the team, and I get it, and that's why they did that. And I like, and if you look at their little musical note on their logo, it is still going to be purple, yellow, and green, which is fantastic. Anyway, when you watch their they had changed when Stockton and Malone, they had changed to a blue, kind of blue and purpley with a mountain logo for the Utah team, which was
Kind of,
different. It
kind of
looked,
resembled the Rockies, yeah.
yeah, it looked weird, but I mean, to me, because I'm used to seeing them in the old uniforms, but a lot of teams are that way. When you ask why are the Lakers called the Lakers, well, they came from Minneapolis, which is Minnesota, which is the land of 10,000 lakes or whatever it is. So that's why they're the Lakers. LA doesn't have any lakes
Yeah.
that I know of.
Just man-made ones in an
Right,
ocean.
but Minnesota had a ton of them, and that's where they came from. That's why they're still called the Lakers. It's carryover stuff. The LA Clippers. Why are the LA Clippers the LA Clippers? Well, they came from San Diego. The San Diego Clippers, in San Diego, if you go down to any marina, there's a whole bunch of ships. So that's where that name came from.
I did not know Clippers had to do with ships.
Yeah, it's Clipper ship. Although they were originally from Buffalo. They were the Buffalo Braves before they moved to San Diego.
I remember that. Or at least I remember what's it called? Their throwback jerseys that had the Brave stuff on them.
And that's your old man history lesson, NBA history lesson for today.
Real quick though, my favorite name change or my favorite name origin is the San Diego Chargers. Well, now Los Angeles Chargers.
Former Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, wait, are they Los Angeles right now? They're the Los Angeles Chargers.
They are the Los Angeles Chargers.
They're formerly San Diego Chargers. They got their name from a credit card company. Chargers meaning charging credit cards. I think it's the most ridiculous name ever.
And yet it's fantastic because it's got a lightning bolt on it, and you think immediately of charge, electrical charge, and all that.
And the lightning bolt is designed to signify it being lightning fast.
Lightning fast charge of your credit card.
That's right.
Yeah, and their arch nemesis, which is a debt collection company. Anyway,
or the checks.
It's just the check.
The Albuquerque checks.
Yeah, they should definitely have that. I think that should be an actual team, spelled with a Q, by the way. Checks with a QE.
Maybe.
So if you look at the Western Conference standings, it's Utah and Phoenix. Those are the two hottest teams, and they have been. Utah is just really good. I don't know that anybody can beat them. They're 20-2 at home, first of all, which is fantastic. And then everybody else seems to be trending towards the middle. If you look at those next four teams, the Clippers are 5 back. Lakers are 6.5 back, but they've lost. They haven't been as good. They're 5-5 in their last.
Well, they're without Anthony Davis and LeBron.
Absolutely. And then there's Denver and Portland, who have been in this stalemate for the 5th, 6th spot. Denver's won 3 straight. Portland's won 4 straight. They're right there, but they're only a half game behind the Lakers.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a tight end of the season.
It's gonna be interesting, and then you got that next group of teams, which is Dallas, San Antonio, maybe Golden State can get in, maybe Memphis can get in. I don't know. It's a long ways out. It's a long season still. There's only 45 games played. They got to play 70. What's the number?
72. I thought they took out 10.
I think it's 72. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So that means that if you played 45 at this point, you still have 27 to go. So there's a lot of basketball still to be played.
Yeah.
But I would put my money on Utah if I was you. If I was you guys right now, nobody seems to be able to beat them. It just they're good.
I would not put. I'm putting it on the Phoenix, on the Suns.
Are you?
Yeah, they look really good.
Phoenix is good. I just don't know if they're as good as Utah. I don't think that with Mitchell and Gobert, and they just seem to be better.
Well, we found out this weekend that all it takes to stop Utah is a flock of birds. So,
for
those of you who don't know, their plane made an emergency landing after hitting a flock of birds.
I mean,
and Mike Conley describes the engine catching fire and all this stuff. So that's all it takes.
Right.
So which of the teams has an avian name?
Yeah, I suppose if you're going to run into a bird team, that might be the thing, right? All right. So
the Pelicans.
Let's talk. Yeah, right. The Pelicans. The Blazers. Let's talk about the Blazers real quick. The Blazers, before the trade deadline, they traded Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood to Toronto for Norman Powell. That was last Thursday. Yeah. Powell is averaging 16.3 points per game in his 3 games with Portland since then, which is very good, really, for a guy you just picked up. My question is this: What do you think Norman Powell brings to Portland that made those guys expendable?
Consistency in scoring and defense. I believe that Gary Trent was up and down in terms of scoring. And while he did have defensive intensity, he's really young. So you're never sure if that intensity is going to translate to smart play. Norman Powell seems a lot more calm than Gary Trent. So he brings a little more of a level head to a defensive moment. And on the offensive side, he's never going to score you 30 points a game, or at least he shouldn't if he's being asked to that much. But he'll score you 15, and maybe he'll get 2 blocks and a steal. And he'll have consistent impact on the defensive end. So he brought consistency. That's what made those other guys expendable.
Do you think he fits in right now? I mean, he looks good. He actually looks pretty good in a Portland uniform. It's comfortable. I mean, but that's part of the consistency thing is that I think if you go from team to team, you still look good no matter what. Do you think that he fits with the Blazers with what they want to do and how they want to move forward?
He seems like he's a good fit for their need. I still think it's a little early because, Damian Lillard was hurt for 2 of those 3 games. So he's still trying to find his role in that. But then, Dame came back against Detroit, and, all 3 of them had a really good day, but it was Detroit also. So
Right.
You're kind of tempering that expectation a little bit. I feel like over the next, 5 or 6 games, there's some tougher games mixed in there. We'll be able to see if he's a true, if he's got a true place here. But so far, yeah, he stepped in right away against the Magic, and he looked like it was no sweat.
Yeah.
Got this. He stepped in, scored 24 points in his first game, went up to Toronto, had a great game there, and then he did just fine against. His offense took a step back against Detroit, but that's because Dame came back. So. Right. Hard to say. So I think a little more time will determine it. But so far, yeah, he looks like he's going to be the real deal in terms of what they needed.
So there are 7 games in the NBA tonight. The Sixers beat the Cavaliers 114-94. The Pistons 120-91 over the Wizards. The Nets had a day off, 111-89 over the Hornets. The Hornets, come on. And then there are the Heat and Warriors just went final. The Miami Heat beat the Warriors 116-109. With 20 seconds left in overtime, Magic 111, Pelicans 110. And then with 5:58 left in the fourth, Hawks 98, Spurs 97. That's going to look like a good game. And then just underway, if you're watching, it's on TNT, the Nuggets 27, the Clippers 16. So, yeah, that's I feel like we're the East is kind of undecided. I still feel like Brooklyn's going to be there at the end and they're going to be number 1. But there's only 3 teams worth playing in the East. The rest of them are going to be crappy. And
that's the way it looks, yeah.
And then everybody in the West, down through Portland, down through Dallas, maybe even San Antonio, is at least 3 games above 500. That's all 8 teams that would be in right now, and they look like teams that could beat you at any given time if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention. So it's going to be interesting to see the West reloaded again. I think last year there was a little trend towards the East. Some of those teams were a little better. This year, not so much. Let's move on because we got to move on. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and it's coming. So let's talk about the NHL.
Okay.
Current NHL standings. You're looking at them right now, and I haven't really talked about them much yet. I got stuff all over the place. I'm literally in disarray at this point because my news and notes are all over the dang place. I can't get them out of the way. Hold on just a second. I'm trying to pull something up. Hang on one second, folks. It's a little technical difficult. All right, so there's your divisional standings. The Discover Central. The thing I like about the NHL right now is that, look at this, the Central. There are 3 teams within 1 point of each other. Tampa, Florida, Carolina. It's tight. You know what I mean? After how many games they played? Let's see, 59, 68. They played 68 games, and it's tight. You just don't know what's going to happen. The Honda West out here, Colorado and Vegas are within 1 point of each other. Minnesota's there, a little bit off the pace. Mass Mutual East has 3 teams within 2 points of each other. That's Washington, the Islanders, Pittsburgh, right? And Pittsburgh has won 4 straight. They're on a streak. So that's tightening up a little bit more. And then, of course, the Scotia North, which you're looking at right here, and that's Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton within 4 points of each other. I like the fact that there's multiple teams within the division that are close. You know what I mean? It's not a runaway at this point.
It's good for competition.
Oh, it's fantastic. It looks great. It makes the games more exciting to watch because they mean something rather than a team being 20 games ahead at this point. And I really like that about the NHL is that the tightness of the league that it's all so close together. In the NHL tonight, number of games on hand. The Hurricanes and Blackhawks tied at 3 with 2:06 to go in the third. Penguins beat the Bruins 4-1. Rangers in overtime over the Sabres 3-2. Islanders over the Capitals, and that's a little bit of an upset, 8-4. 8-4. You heard me right. That's 8 goals in a hockey game. Lightning over the Blue Jackets 3-2. Panthers over the Red Wings 3-2. Canadiens over the Senators 4-1. Stars over the Predators 4-1. And starting at any point in time now, the Minnesota Wild and the Vegas Golden Knights will be playing. And that should be on NBC Sports if you're going to watch it. So a tight race. I like that. Everybody likes that, I think. It's more fun to watch. It makes for better viewing. Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about
did you watch the Avalanche game?
I did.
Did you see the helmet throw?
I did. I did like that.
Best thing I've seen in hockey in a while. Chuck the helmet right at him.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I like that reaction. I mean, that's a fired up guy.
Right? I like that they toughed a little bit. He ripped his helmet off. He back skated away, looked at him, and then said, "You're gonna need that," and just chucked it at his head.
Just chucked it at him, right? I mean,
that guy did what anybody does when somebody throws something at you and you're not ready. Just hands go up, and you kind of bat it away.
Right?
Like, what happened?
I mean, I like the fired up. I like the fact that in hockey you can get fired up. You know what I mean? Because
this being fired up costs you like $5,000.
It does.
You got a little fine for it.
It costs you in every league, but I like the fact that the NHL allows a little bit of fired up.
You know McKinnon cares about getting ejected when you're up. At the time, I think it was 7-3 or something like that. Or they won 9-3. So
not at all. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Who cares, man? You got to embarrass that guy.
Right? In case you missed it, and we're going to talk about it right now. It was opening day in MLB today. If you missed it, ESPN had a quadruple header of baseball games, and there's still one being played.
17 hours of baseball.
It absolutely was, and you're not wrong. It was close to that amount anyway, because baseball games take 4 hours apiece. So
and like 5 of them aren't over,
and they're still playing. So scores from today. Just going to let you know, in the bottom of the second right now, White Sox 1, Angels nothing. At the end of the second, Astros and Athletics tied at 0. Top of the third, Giants over the Mariners 2-0. That's the Mariners home opener there at, what's the name of their field now? T-Mobile Field?
I don't know, something like that.
CenturyLink, and now it's called something else.
No, well, CenturyLink was the football field. Oh my God. And they changed their names too. They're not CenturyLink anymore either.
I'm sorry.
I cannot remember what the Mariners Stadium is called.
Final in 10 innings was the first game this morning, which was the Blue Jays 3, the Yankees 2. That was the first game of the year. And then the Tigers and the Indians. In case you didn't see, the Tigers and Indians game played in Detroit today. Tigers won 3-2. It was snowing, which happens every spring when they start the season. There's somebody playing in either Detroit or Cleveland or Milwaukee or wherever, and the weather's terrible. But Tigers won 3-2 in that game. Brewers 6-5 over the Twins. The Pirates beat the Cubs 5-3 at the home opener at Wrigley. Phillies over the Braves in 10, 3-2. Padres beat the Diamondbacks 8-7. And then the Rockies beat the Dodgers 8-5. The Cardinals with an 11-6 win over the Reds. The Rays with a 1-0 win over the Marlins. An unusual defensive game or pitching duel in the first game of the season. Usually it's offense that rules the day. And by example, the Royals beat the Rangers 14-10 today. So usually offense is way ahead of pitching at this point. So 2 games postponed today. That's the Nationals hosting the Mets. That was postponed. And the Red Sox hosting the Orioles. Those both were postponed today. So not every team got to play today. But a lot of good baseball action. And if you like watching baseball in the snow, and I've played in the snow, by the way, and it sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine it wouldn't be great.
That's all I'm going to say. It was cold and cold, and your body, everything when you hit the ball with a bat when it's cold, especially with a metal bat, it stings like a son of a bitch. It is not okay, and it hurts. Everything hurts, and when the ball hits you in the glove, and it's cold outside, it's like 30 degrees. It hurts. Anyway, don't Don't do it.
Anyway.
Don't.
Like, yeah, that sucks.
It sucks, man. It's bad. It's really bad. Let's talk about the NFL for a minute.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
The NFL last Friday, all of the what do you call it? All of the draft changed. The whole 2021 NFL draft changed on last Friday. The Dolphins, basically, here's the deal. They sent the number 3 pick this year to the Niners in exchange for the number 12 pick this year and a first and third round pick in 2022, as well as a first round pick in 2023. If you followed all that, get ready for the second trade. They then sent the number 12 pick, that same number 12 pick for this year, and this year's number 123 pick, right? And the 2022 first round pick that they just got to Philadelphia for the number 6 and number 156 in this year's draft. What does that mean? It means a whole lot of nothing, except that the Niners traded up to get the number 3 pick. And what does that mean for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's the starting quarterback?
Not good news, man.
I don't feel like it is. And the Niners are saying that it's not a move against Garoppolo, like he's going to be the starting quarterback. But let me tell you this, that this is the third time that the number 3 pick has been traded in the last 5 drafts, right? Okay. And the last 4 times that it's happened, that someone's moved up to get a number 3 pick, they've drafted the quarterback.
Really?
Yeah. So
it sounds like they're going to draft a quarterback, is what you're saying.
It sounds like they're going to draft a quarterback, but if you know what we know, which is there may only be one great quarterback in this draft, or maybe 2. Justin Fields? Maybe?
Justin Fields. Come on.
I mean, and Trevor Lawrence might not even be that good. I mean, I don't know. Trevor Lawrence looks like a better bet than the last few quarterbacks that everyone was trying to feed me, like Johnny Manziel or even Baker Mayfield. I still don't think he's a great quarterback. Just personal opinion. I think he's surrounded by fantastic talent, and they're still mediocre.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I feel like they could do better. But Garoppolo has been good everywhere he's been. He's been good, but not great, not Super Bowl caliber. And if you're looking for a guy that is a Tom Brady caliber, odds are you're not going to find that. Those are once in a lifetime kind of players. But who is the guy? So what we're talking about here is a couple of former Alabama quarterbacks, in that Tua at Miami, right?
Right.
And Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. And I know he's not Oklahoma. Is he an Oklahoma quarterback or an Alabama quarterback? That's the question of the day.
Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. So do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to stay in San Francisco, or are they going to draft a backup? Because they really don't have. I mean, Josh Rosen's on their roster. Is he worth having? He's been on what?
No, he doesn't. He's a roster filler.
Right.
God forbid something happens. He's competent enough to do okay.
He's a really good signal caller.
Yeah, sure. And he's a little bit of a veteran presence at this point.
Looks good in
He's been around.
Right.
I guess so. No, it's not good news. It's definitely not good news. Nobody jumps up to number 3 to grab a lineman. Like, I mean, I guess it could happen, but they have been very soft about their commitment to Jimmy G. Mm-hmm. So, like, even last year when he was talking about potentially coming back in midseason, they're like, well, we're doing okay with what's his face. Right. And it was like, that's not a great look for you. So no, it's not good news for Jimmy G.
I don't know what to make of it. I kind of feel like they're going to have to draft a quarterback at that high at number 3. If you traded up to get him, then you clearly want something. But who else is up there that's worth drafting? And from all of the mock drafts I've seen, and for all the players that I know that are going to go in the first round, Penei Sewell would be one of those guys you could draft. You could move up to draft. But I don't.
You wanted a second round, or not a second round? If you wanted a lineman that high,
I don't think he'll go until like 6 or 7 or 8, because there's some wide receivers, there's some quarterbacks, there's But I feel like Trevor Lawrence is the only one that I would bet money on is going to be good. Everybody else at quarterback would be a gamble. To me,
it stands to reason.
That's just the way I feel. I don't know for sure, and I base it on nothing but what I've seen from number 1 draft picks recently. Number 1 draft picks at quarterback tend to be, I mean, you see him drafted and you're like, okay, he deserves to be there because of what he did in college, but ends up being as a quarterback. I don't know, but that's just what I feel. I still don't know. The jury's still out on Jalen Hurts and or Tua. we're going to see about a full season when they get this year, a full season under their belt at quarterback. We'll know more about them. Neither one super impressed me. Maybe two is ahead of Hurts at this point, but
Yeah,
it might
maybe
be
a little, but
the
we'll find
team
out.
around him. It might be the team around him that's capable. You know what I mean? Philadelphia was in a bad shape
And
last year.
they didn't give him the reins till the end and took him away and all that
Right.
mess. But
It seemed
yeah,
awkward.
we'll definitely see about them. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sold yet.
We'll know more, but the NFL draft is going to be an interesting one to watch if you're paying attention. And I'm not. I don't have the dates on hand, but we'll talk about that next week. And we'll do a whole draft episode. I think is what we'll come up on when we get closer.
Sounds right.
And talk about what teams need and what they're going to get. So also that happened this last weekend on Sunday. Formula One is back. If you aren't watching Formula One, you need to watch Formula One. It is really exciting. I've been touting it all last year. No one listens to me.
Well,
What?
Formula. You're talking about Formula One. Most of the people can't even get on board with it. They can
Listen,
barely get on board with NASCAR changing
no,
to a dirt track, let alone going
don't
overseas.
don't get on board with NASCAR. NASCAR is a bunch of trash.
What I'm saying is people can barely get the people who like racing can
Right.
barely get on board with NASCAR changing a very minuscule aspect of their
Right.
sport.
But
let alone go start supporting European names they can't pronounce.
I don't think they should be doing the dirt track stuff. That's weird. That's just weird to me. You know what I mean? I feel like there's nah. But anyway, Formula One first race of the season was in Bahrain on Sunday. Lewis Hamilton, who is last year's champion, by the way, held off a charging Max Verstappen for the first win of the 2021 season. Verstappen had the pole after qualifying, and he looked like he had the faster car for most of the race. He fell behind on a pit stop, couldn't quite make the pass at the end to catch up, but he was right on top of Hamilton. So he finished second. Valtteri Bottas, who's Hamilton's teammate, he was third. He got an extra point for having the fastest lap of the day. So you get points based on your standings, and then you get 1 point is awarded to the person that has the fastest lap of the day.
Right.
And Bottas came in on the next to last lap, changed his tires, got fresh tires, and ran out and did the fastest lap he could. And he won that extra point, which is kind of cool. Next race is Sunday, April the 18th. It's in Italy. And it'll be fun to watch. I watch every week now. And just for you people, just as an FYI, in October, we are heading to Austin, Texas for the U.S. Grand Prix.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually be there. I'm actually going to get to see it in person. So I will give Twitter updates and Facebook updates as best I can, and some pictures, and send you guys information. But it's going to be fun and exciting. So I'm really excited to go. It's my first Formula One race, my first car race. No, that's not true. I went to a dirt track race back in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Yeah, no one cares about that.
That's my first real car race, and that's going to be exciting. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. But if you haven't watched F1, it's fun. Watch the qualifying on Saturday. Watch the race on Sunday. That's the only two things. If they try and convince you that you need to watch practice, do not watch practice. It's not worth it. But everything else is kind of fun. It is really. This was a great race. It was close. There's incidents, accidents. There's all kinds of weird things that happen. It's a lot of fun, and pit stops are the excitement. I mean, literally, they come in for pit stop. Some of these guys, some of these teams have pit stops under 2 seconds. They literally in the pit and can change all 4 tires in 2 seconds.
I mean, it's skill.
And they're back. Yeah, it is fantastic. And then there's issues that happen, like, oh, we couldn't get one of the tires off. All of a sudden, it took us 8 seconds. Well, you lost 6 seconds on the track when that happens, and that's a big deal at the end. So it's kind of fun. Anyway, I'm just saying, if you get a chance,
I'll check it out.
Record it. It's on ESPN2 usually, and record it and watch it at your leisure later. Leisure is the right term. I don't think it's leisure.
Something like that.
Is it leisure or leisure? So we are at a halfway point, which is a little more than halfway because we're a little further than halfway. The second half of the show is brought to you by Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Be sure to tune in to BossKittyLive.com, 6 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday, and 11 a.m. every other Sunday. For fun, fiber games, tutorials, the occasional F-bomb, something big is coming from Boss Kitty. Their boss battle is coming. Keep listening to our show. Keep watching BossKittyLive.com for more details. That's Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Yarn so boss, you'll knit your pants. That's the second half of the show. And so we're we're going to talk about in the second half of the show. This is something we've never done before. We're going to talk about officiating in pro sports. And what I want to start you with is a video, if we can do that, which I think I can, which I have queued up right here. So this, if you're not paying attention, this is the UConn and Baylor Women's Elite Eight, Riverwalk region. Baylor's down 1. You can see the thing, 17.2 seconds. I'm gonna play a clip for you, and there's a play coming, and I wanna get your opinion on it, and everyone can see it. We're gonna play it twice, but we're gonna play it once right now. We're gonna watch it. Ready?
17 seconds to go. The freshman Andrews with 13 seconds left. Carrington wants it on the block. 8 seconds left. Back to Carrington. 6 seconds left. Carrington on the drive. Carrington forces it up. No! Rebound UConn! And with 4/10 of a second left, Williams is fouled.
Okay. Let's back it up. We're going to play it again, and then I'll let the slow motion play. So everyone saw that, right? You saw it.
I did.
Okay.
I saw it live.
Yeah, and I saw it live too. Okay, so let's replay it. I'm going to replay it one more time, and I'm going to let it roll through the replay in slow motion.
Baylor ball, 17 seconds to go. The freshman Andrews with 13 seconds left. Carrington wants it on the block. 8 seconds left. Back to Carrington. 6 seconds left. Carrington on the drive. Carrington forces it up. No! Rebound UConn! And with 4/10 of a second left, Williams is fouled. Carrington. Let's take another look.
Yeah, on her right elbow.
Absolutely.
But during that official review,
Okay. Let me tell you my initial reaction. From behind, from the camera view of on the court, live, from behind the player, from behind the Baylor player, it did not look like a foul. It looked like 2 defensive players putting their arms straight up and being right in the way. And it looked legal. When you see the replay, it absolutely looks like a foul.
Right.
In that one of the players here from UConn not only comes at her, bodies her, puts her body right up on her, and leaves her feet to do so.
Right.
And then when you see it from the side, the Baylor player jumps straight up to make this shot and gets bodied. I don't think one of the UConn players probably did not foul her. The taller one here with the dark hair did not foul her, but the other one definitely puts her body up on her and leaves her feet and lunges into her. And that is clearly a foul.
Right.
So
100%.
Okay. So we're all in agreement that that's a foul. And it was a gigantic missed call. This affected the Final Four.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
the
not like
the refs decided who was in the women's Final Four.
Correct. They absolutely did. And I don't know how you missed that. I mean, I don't understand how you don't see it unless you're out of position.
Well, I see the back judge ref there on the the near side from the main one. Yeah. That's a perfect spot. It's about where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, but there should be one right here underneath.
There is one on the baseline. He's just supposed to be just on the other side. He's supposed to be on the other side of the hoop.
Problem was he's end up behind the UConn player, so he can't see whether they're going out or coming back. He can only see it from behind. Had he been on the side, and I'm going to use my cursor here, had he been down here,
had he been the other side of the baseline,
yeah, he'd have been able to see it clear as day. But when you're down here on the other side of the basket,
but the question is, does he blow the whistle even if he does see it? Maybe he saw it this time and still didn't blow the whistle.
Correct.
Because he doesn't want to, quote, decide the game.
And you would think that the third referee, who's out towards the top of the key left
side.
Yeah,
they're not really responsible for these calls.
He's not, but he could see it from there. He could actually see the contact. So, I mean, he could call it if that was something he wanted to do. I don't know. It feels like and we're all in tune with conspiracy theories. That's what we're all about here at the Best Lamb Sports Show. It feels like they wanted UConn to win.
Well, yeah, you got to get Gino his 70th women's basketball title.
Whatever it is, right?
Something like that.
I don't feel like they should have won. I feel like this is a clear-cut foul that would have been called in any other game. But, it's UConn, and so we can't do that. And I understand referees not wanting to decide the game and make that call at the end of the game and the no call. And I hear that argument all the time.
But you
about,
decide it when you don't do it.
You're deciding it whether you call it or not.
Either way. So
Right.
do your job. Handle the call.
So right, and exactly.
And call it and then go look at it.
Right. And you definitely should be going and looking at it.
There's no excuse why they didn't just call in the NFL all the time. They'll call pass interference. They'll go look at it. They'll determine there was none.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they even think there might be, they'll throw the flag, go look at it, determine that there was none.
Right.
That's the way you do that. That's the way you handle that moment. I don't give a crap about it slowing down the game.
Right.
I want to watch a clean game, and I want the correct calls made. I don't want somebody to get screwed out of the Final Four just because you didn't want to make a call because you can't review it because the system is broken that you have in place for officials.
And it wasn't just this game that let us talk about officials tonight. Let's talk about the NHL for just a minute. Mm-hmm. I think we're in agreement that this was an egregious call in NCAA basketball, and Baylor probably deserved a chance to shoot free throws to win that game. I think everybody agrees that, except people from Connecticut. So let's talk about the NHL, and let's talk about this guy on your screen right now, which is referee Tim Peel. He had been an official for 22 years. He was fired last Wednesday when a hot mic incident during the Nashville Predators-Detroit Red Wings game captured him saying, "It wasn't much, but I wanted to get an effing penalty against Nashville early," which brought into account makeup calls and or grudge calls.
Or calling to set a tone.
Right, to set a tone.
Which is what this sounded like to me, was that he made a call to say, well, Nashville's an aggressive team, and I want to check them early on that.
That sounds more grudgy to me than tone setting. And a tone setting call would be like, I called a double technical on that because I want both teams to understand that we're not going to allow that. But this guy called one foul against Nashville. He specifically called it against Nashville because they wanted to get one against them early. And I don't know if that was to tone them down, like you're saying, which it may have been. But it to me, it feels more like I don't like Nashville or I owe Detroit a foul, right? Yeah. So I'm going to call it now because of the last game or whatever. I don't know. We don't know what the reason was. Long story short, number one, we all know that makeup calls happen in every sport, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
every game.
We're in agreement that every game. I'm a baseball umpire. Or used to be. And I will tell you that while you try not to do that, you do feel guilty when you make a bad call. And that later you would like to make a tone for that. You like a tone for that call if it's at all possible. But you don't go, I wouldn't go out of my way to make a call to help another team because I made a bad one earlier. Bad calls are just part of the game. It just happens. Yeah. I mean, it's part of the humanness of the game that I love so much. And not a lot of people do that, but I love the fact that the game is human, that there's humans calling fouls. I like that because there's going to be
incidents like this highlight why human is not great.
He's not great. I mean, it's not perfect. No, well, let's not call it not great. Let's call it not
NBA refs saying to Damian Lillard, "You're not going to get that call, rookie."
Hold on to that one. Hold on to that one.
Okay.
NHL Senior Executive Vice President Colin Campbell said, quote unquote, "Nothing is more important than ensuring the integrity of our game. Tim Peel's conduct is in direct contradiction to the adherence to that cornerstone principle that we demand of our officials." Amongst other things, he said that. And he's right. He's absolutely right, and that is the right response from the NHL.
That is a good response.
It absolutely is. Because you don't want to give the appearance that, oh, yeah, this crap happens. Right?
Yeah, and you don't want to come out there and defend the humanness of the game. You want to say this was not right. As the league official, you want to say this was not right.
Right. And then I don't know. So here's what we learned from this particular incident. I'm going to show you another picture. So this guy straight in front of you, this referee in the middle of your screen, in front of Simmons for Toronto, is Eric Furlat. So what he's doing right here, if you see his right hand, is in a fist position. Do you know what he's doing?
He's covering his mic.
He's covering his microphone while he tries to explain why he didn't call a very blatant tripping penalty late in the third period of the Senators Maple Leafs game. And so that's what these referees have learned from the firing of Tim Peel and the open mic episode is, I don't want to get caught on mic. They didn't learn, hey, we should call the game right. What they learned was, if I do it weird, I need to make sure no one hears.
But that's what kids learn. Is the very
And
first time
absolutely.
a kid does something wrong,
How
and
do
you punish them, how do I do it again without getting caught? If
How
I do
do
it
I
again
do
without
it
getting caught,
wrong
it's probably
again
not.
without
They're
getting
probably
caught?
not going to do it.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I feel like an NHL referee should not be treated the same as a 7-year-old kid.
I feel like the lessons that we teach children should be consistently taught to us throughout our lives.
Right. I feel like honesty is the best policy, and if you have to cover your mic to speak to a guy to tell him why you did something, you're
Not a
clearly,
good sign.
it's not honest. It's clearly wrong.
Shades of covering a body camera for
Right.
police. It just doesn't look good. You shouldn't do it.
I mean,
what were you saying that was not okay to say
Right.
that nobody should hear?
Right. I absolutely.
And I've heard a lot of these types of calls. When I used to sit courtside at the Portland State games, I used to hear these things all the time. I used to hear a player go, "Come on, he made contact with my arm," and he goes, "No way, no way." Like just little things.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, he's talking to him at least. There's communication there. Only one time did I ever hear a referee be not okay, and somebody was complaining about a foul, and he said, "Hey, there was no foul there, and you better hush it, or the next time down, I'm gonna call a foul on you." And it's like, what do you mean the next time down? You're going to tee him up for talking back, or that's it. Like, not the next time down.
And each sport has their little idiosyncrasies. Each one's different in the way the referees interact with the players. So it's a little different. And the NBA is one of those that, and basketball in general, NCAA basketball, NBA basketball, except for high school maybe, which the referees clearly have way more authority than the players. But everything else becomes negotiable, shall we say? And that you see that coaches and players in the NBA, it's coaches in college and the pros, it's players in the NBA that lobby for calls. They aren't lobbying because this call was necessarily, I don't want you to overturn this call. I want a call just like this one in the future.
Yeah.
Right? So as I'm showing these pictures that you see come up, like Nurkic, well, that one right there is not a good example. That was someone getting thrown out. But when you see guys lobbying to the officials, they're, oh, well, listen, what about the other guy when on the other end? You got to call it both ways. You hear that a lot, but you hear coaches on the shoulder of these guys talking constantly throughout the game, reminding them, quote unquote, of the rules or to be fair or whatever. And as a former basketball coach, I can attest to the fact that there are times when you look at a referee and go, what are you doing? Because you called that, but we do the exact same thing and you didn't call it, right? For us or against us or whatever. And it's just weird. And like you hit on, NBA has this unwritten rule in refereeing that if you're a rookie, you don't get calls, no matter who you are. I'm not sure.
And you'll definitely never get them against a vet, especially a superstar.
If you're Damian Lillard and you're a rookie in the NBA and you're driving to the basket against LeBron James, you're not getting that call, no matter what.
So you better make the bucket.
Unless he hammers you.
Yeah, right? It needs to be either really egregious or you're not going to get it.
Right. You're most likely not going to get a call because who are you? We don't know you. But we know the face of the league, and we're willing to protect him, and we're willing to, we don't want him to foul out.
Absolutely not.
Right. So,
which brings into the idea of collusion.
Correct. And
is there conspiracy in the league?
We've talked about before. You and I have talked, and not on the show, but we've talked about the Damian Lillard situation. That his number of fouls called, drawn fouls, let's call them that, when he's on offense, the fouls that he draws, fouls against him, have gone up significantly. His free throws go up significantly as he goes through his career.
Yeah.
And I think almost every NBA player of any caliber, it's the exact same thing. They start out getting, a couple free throws a game, and then pretty soon they're up to 7 or 8 free throws a game in 3 or 4 or 5 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. As they get through and they become, oh, this guy's a star, he's going to get that call. Yeah. And that shouldn't be the case because a foul is a foul, is it not?
Absolutely is. You should not be not getting fouls when you're being fouled.
Or it should be. A foul is a foul, and it should always be called a foul, except it's not. And that's what's bringing us to this particular situation where we're talking about this stuff. And it's the same in the NFL. You see the same exact things in the NFL. a guy will throw a flag on one play and realize, oh, maybe I made a mistake, so he doesn't throw a flag on the same team later.
Right.
When there is a foul. And is that fair? Because
I could not imagine anything more aggravating than getting a pass. Let's say you're a wide receiver, getting yanked down by your shoulder pads or having your arm held down as you're going up for a pass, and they throw a flag, and then the next drive down, that defender does the exact same thing to you, and they don't throw a flag,
and there's no call.
I couldn't imagine how upset I would be as a player. And that's it. They expect these players, NBA, NHL, in every way, to just be cool with it.
Right.
To be cool with you being wrong.
Yeah, you be cool. Everybody.
Problem is, we're not talking about something that's in a rec league. We're not talking about something that's done for free. There are millions of dollars on the line, both in betting, in salaries, in contracts. Like, there's millions and billions of dollars on the line. You are being far too cavalier with your flag, or far too conservative with it. Like, let that bad boy fly. There's something going on, and you know it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things where I don't know if the league has too much of a hand in it. And if they have any hand in it, then it's a problem. That means that it's being guided.
Right.
Which is collusion, and that means that the basketball you're watching is no longer pure, or the football you're watching is no longer pure. Right. It is deliberately tainted. Like the guy who wanted to call a penalty on Nashville. He created a power play.
Right.
He created an opportunity to score for another team because he either doesn't like Nashville or wanted to set a tone against their aggressiveness.
Right. Yeah.
He might have cost, $100,000 to some bettor who bet on the underdog that game.
Right.
I couldn't imagine how pissed I'd be.
I will tell you that as a coach, just in general, I've been a coach of basketball and baseball. I've never been a football coach, but I've been in all of that. It becomes frustrating to watch inconsistency. You know what I mean? If you're going to call it, I don't have a problem with you calling whatever it is you call. And one of those things is strike zones in MLB. Let's talk about that for just a minute. One of those things is strike zones. The strike zone is non-negotiable. However, it has a set rule in the rule book of where you're supposed to call what is a strike and what is a ball. Right. There's an actual definition of where the strike zone is. But each umpire has his own definition of where the strike zone is.
Right, because Tim's knees are bad, so he can't lean down as much, so his strike zone sits a little lower.
I mean,
or somebody's real squatted down, so it extends up a little higher than it's supposed to.
I mean, don't knock us old people, but whatever.
I'm just saying, like, these are all factors.
they are absolutely factors. I'm not even going to argue that. What I'm telling you is that as a coach, and I've been on both sides because I've been an umpire and I've been a coach, and as a coach, it is frustrating to see someone who's inconsistent. Inconsistency is probably the thing that's going to get you argued at or yelled at the most. If you're consistent and you say, hey, this pitch down here just below the knees is a strike for both teams, neither coach is going to get upset about that. But if you do it
if
for
you call
one
it the
team,
same way the whole time, it'll be fine.
Right, but if you do it for one team and not the other team, that's when the problem comes. They perceive an inequity, and it becomes a gigantic issue. And that may just be perception. You know what I mean? It may just be a coach, his perception of what you're calling.
His angle or something like that.
As long as you're, and that's the other thing is that let's be honest, folks. A coach in a dugout who's 60 feet away from the actual plate. And
the only thing he knows is if it's high or low.
He only knows high or low. He doesn't know in or out. He only knows what the catcher tells him. The catcher's always going to tell him to strike. Why? That's his catcher.
Because the catcher's going to catch the ball and slightly move it back towards.
Because the catcher's going to frame that ball 6 inches for sure. He's going to grab that with the outside tip of the glove and pull it back in just a hair to make it look like a strike. But that's part of the game, and that act by the catcher of framing a pitch is no different than when a soccer player falls down when he gets touched. It's the same exact. You look at these soccer players and you go, oh, they're over dramatic and they fall down at anything. He's trying to get a call. The exact same way that catcher who moves that glove 6 inches after he catches the ball tries to grab it and flip it inside the strike zone in one smooth motion. That's the same play.
Or the same way any NBA player takes a little bit of contact and flails the ball and goes,
throw it up and flail. If you throw your arms up, you're more than likely going to get fouled, right? That's the rule.
But the problem is that there are some aspects of the game that do not need to be human controlled. A strike zone, for example, does not need, we don't need an official back there. Doesn't need him anymore. We have all the technology. They've been testing it in minor leagues and things like that. They can build a digital strike zone. They can put chips in the balls, and they can know exactly when it's a strike and when it's not. They know. They don't need a ref back there. There are some aspects out in the field which I think still require some manual officiating. I think first base would not hurt to have it there.
Right.
But that's mostly because of you get into things like interference, like runner interference or base interference and things like that. That's kind of where I tend to lean towards, maybe still have a person there. But in terms of like, was he there or was he not there? There's probably a camera that shows it. Just got to find it. So, but the strike zone is one of those big ones where it doesn't have to be a question. We choose to let there be a question. That's frustrating. So, I don't need to see the referee back there or the umpire back there going, I don't need it. I would be happier if it was just accurate.
I like the tradition though. I like that I like the human element of things in that, this guy would have had a no-hitter if this umpire didn't call that guy safe on a close play. Right?
Oh, you talking about that one no-hitter back in the day?
I'm not naming names. I'm just saying.
The biggest referee screw up ever.
Maybe, although
if they have replay, then that guy gets a no-hitter. And it's deserved. He earned a no-hitter. He did everything he was supposed to do.
Maybe.
And the referee blew it.
Kansas City, St. Louis, 1982 World Series. Don Denkinger blows a call at first base that is clearly an out call that he calls safe. Or no, wait. Clearly. It was a safe call that he called out. I'm sorry.
I can't wait till in like 20 years people are like 2021 Baylor UConn.
Right.
Referee whatever blows the call. It costs
right?
Baylor the game.
It's one of those that goes down in history as one of those calls that when you watch it you go, how could he possibly do that?
All-time bad call. Yep.
But it's part of the game. It's built into the history of the game, and I like the fact that there's error because the humans are playing it. It's not computers playing any of these games. We don't need computers to be deciding whether a team is good. Because if that's the case, why don't we just generate all the computer statistics and figure out who the better team is, and we don't even play the game?
Here's the problem, though. I'm spending on $100 and something to go watch a game that you might screw up.
But you will remember that game forever.
In not a very good way.
Doesn't matter. You don't remember those games where a team wins.
I remember games when my guy had a no-hitter, and I also remember games when my guy got a no-hitter robbed from him.
A no-hitter is memorable. You're right. But you won't remember a 2-hit shutout from so-and-so in 10 years. You just won't remember it. But if in that game, the umpire made a bad call that allowed a team to get a player on base and the next guy hit a home run and they lost the game, you will remember that forever.
You were raised in an era watching sports where the human element was the only element.
And I like it.
That's it. That's all. No, you didn't have to like it. You didn't have a choice. That's what there was. You dealt.
You're too young.
But no, because I straddled the two. Because I watched football in the 90s and the early 2000s when it wasn't super prevalent, but it was becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching it now where it's super prevalent. I've seen it both ways. And I got to tell you, you didn't have any choice. And that's sad for you that you have to side with, the old side of it because that's what you watched for 30 years.
I'm
over here siding with accuracy. Tickets cost too much. Games are too expensive. There's too much money on the line. You can't be screwing up. And you can't be calling fouls on teams because you want them to have a foul.
Right. Well, that's true. I mean, let's agree.
You definitely. But if you like the human element, that's the human element.
I like that.
Little grudges are the human element.
I like certain parts of the human element. There's certain parts that I don't like, that I don't agree with.
Now I want half a human, half a robot.
No. I want a smarter human that's not stupid enough to get caught on audio saying, "Oh, I wanted to get a call against him."
Oh, so you want the other referee who was covering up his mic?
Yeah, he's absolutely learned his lesson. He absolutely has. But next time, don't cover up your mic. Just say the right thing to this guy.
You don't have to cover it up. Just be cool.
Correct, right? You don't. I mean, I don't know. I want a hybrid. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't want Tim Peel, who got fired, but I don't want that guy who covered his mic either.
I also don't want that guy who blew the call at first base. And I want leagues to come out and say they got things wrong. It doesn't change anything. No one ever knows that, but it would still feel better for the Baylor player to know that, I might have had a chance.
Here's my thing. here's my take on this whole thing and refereeing thing, and we're way over time, by the way. But here's my refereeing thing. If it comes down to a decision between a referee getting 98% of the calls right, and one of those 2% is he screwed up a call so bad that it's just unbelievable. And the other option is we're going to take 20 minutes out of the game to review everything.
Right.
I would rather have the referee. I would absolutely rather have the referee get it wrong than take 20 minutes out of the game.
But that's the dumb part is it doesn't have to take 20 minutes because Jim Nance's dumbass doesn't have to introduce me to the play. Oh, after I thought on that, let's take an extra look at this and then really slowly get back into the replay. No, I could watch the replay, have a decision in 40 seconds. If people just shut up, let's show it to me. Let me say it before they snap the ball again. I'll know whether it was legit or not.
But it never happens. That's my point. Is it never happens that way? You want it to be like, oh, let me go over and look at it.
It's okay, here's the rule. Because they can't look at it unless it's safety. They can't look at it until they blow the whistle to stop it.
It has to fall into these 6 categories for me to review it.
What I'm saying is, why isn't there a crack team of people back in New York at the NFL headquarters? The moment the ball is down, they are watching the replays.
I think
a bunch of young 20-somethings just analyzing the crap out of it in the next 20 seconds, and then they radio down to Gene Steratore or whoever's on the field and say, "Yeah, we're good. It's good to go."
I feel like you answered your own question when you said crack team.
But I do like the idea of a crack team of anybody doing something very well.
I like referees making calls. I like the fact that they get some wrong. I do. I don't like the fact that we go to review and what ends up happening is the play stands. The call stands. You didn't prove anything. You didn't do anything, but we took 20 minutes to get there. I hate that. And that's but I haven't looked at the stats, and I'm going to, so we have it on the next show. I haven't looked up the stats, but I feel like the majority of the calls that they go and review end up being stand. Well, if that's the case, then why are we reviewing it? Why are we wasting our time with it if we're just going to call it what was on the field? That's my point. I don't like the review if it's not going to be conclusive and overturn anything. Then why did we go look at it if all we're going to do is 90% of the time say, oh, the call on the field stands? That's dumb. We're wasting time, and we're getting an extra commercial in. The NFL loves that, right?
Yeah,
I don't need to see Lily from AT&T one more time. I really don't.
From 2011 to 2016, the NFL had an average of 1.6 replay reviews per game. 1.6.
Okay.
So let's say 2 replays per game.
Okay.
41% of these are average. 41% of them were overturned. So the average number that stand is about 59%.
Yeah.
So the question, but this is from 2011, 2016. Now all calls can be overturned from New York. They're not necessarily overturned by the field judge.
Right.
That's been this way for now like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So this is no longer relevant in terms of the call on the field stands because I feel like there were a lot of officials who won't change their mind. I call what I call. That is what it is. And it's that crap.
Yeah.
That's why they got rid of the coaches challenge for pass interference.
Right.
Because the completion rate was less than 2%, but every fan at home saw it.
Yeah, you're right. And that whole pass interference thing was dumb. Let's admit
it slowed it down, but it pointed out the fact that the coaches were right and the refs were wrong.
It sure did, but it didn't change anything. Is what
it didn't ultimately change anything because old heads don't want to change anything.
That's my problem is that there's so many non-calls, and that's what happens in basketball. Yeah. Oh, well, we didn't want to call a foul. It's a non-call. There's no such thing as a non-call.
Either there was a foul or
if you label something as a non-call, that means a foul has occurred. You just didn't call it. So
a non-call is like a near miss.
Right,
it means something. It means something happened.
And by the way, we all know that. By the way, there's no such thing as a near miss. There's a near hit. But there is no such thing as a near miss.
You can ask the Jazz about a near.
I don't
near
know.
Miss. They still landed that plane.
So let me read something real quick because we laughed about this, and I think everyone will get a kick out of this. Just real quick, we're gonna read this, and then we're gonna quit for the night. Rule 10. We're gonna talk about the NCAA rule book in basketball. Rule 10. Okay? It has fouls and penalties. That's what it covers. Section 1 is personal fouls under Rule 10. I'm going to read you Article 1 just so everyone has a clear understanding of what the NCAA has deemed a foul, a personal foul. Okay? A player shall not hold, displace, push, charge, trip, or impede the progress of an opponent by extending an arm or arms, shoulder or shoulders, hip or hips, knee or knees, or by bending his own body into other than a normal position, or by using an unreasonably rough tactic. Any unreasonably rough tactic. Okay, so we're not allowed to extend an arm, a shoulder, a hip, or a knee, block a guy, impede his progress.
Not to impede his progress unless you've established position first.
Right. So if a guy has the ball, let's move to Article 4.
Is this specific to basketball, right?
This is specific to basketball.
Yeah. Okay.
Article 4. The following acts constitute a foul when committed against a player with the ball. Okay? This is just what happens when a player is against the ball. You're defending him. A. Keeping a hand or forearm on an opponent. Well, that's a foul on every possession.
Every time. Everybody who's guarding anybody.
B. Putting two hands on an opponent. Well, if keeping a hand on him is a foul, then I would guess two hands would definitely be two fouls.
The logical progression.
It's two fouls, right?
I feel like that doesn't happen all that often.
Right. Continually jabbing an opponent by extending an arm and placing a hand or forearm on the opponent. You continually touch him, jab him, move him, push him, I guess is what they're talking about.
I always thought a jab required to have a closed fist.
Well, and a glove, right? Using an arm, using a number D, using an arm bar to impede the progress of a dribbler. Well, that you don't see that, right? That's one of those extremes. If you grabbed a guy by the arm and arm barred him while he was dribbling the basketball, yeah, that's bad. I mean, that's clearly a foul. So let me one more thing. This is the last thing I'm going to read. Article 5. The following principles apply to post play. These are big guys in the middle, and constitute fouls when violated. And I just want to read A. Neither the offense or defense may dislodge an opponent during post play by pushing, backing into, or using a leg, knee, or arm to move an opponent from a legally established position. And how many times do you watch an NBA game, NCAA game, whatever? Guy gets the ball in the post and immediately he throws his back at the guy. He backs in on him. And he initiates contact. It's an offensive foul, folks. It says so right in the rule book. And immediately, when that guy catches the ball, what's the defensive guy do? He's got a hand in his back. That's a defensive foul, folks. Every time. Every play. But they don't call it. So now, when they do call it, how do you justify calling it later a foul? Oh, that was above and beyond an unnecessary contact, right? That's a flagrant foul, and then we haven't even talked about that. So I don't know how, if everything's a foul, and judging by Rule 10, everything's a foul, I don't know how we get through a game with any players
everything
left.
is a foul, yeah.
And by the way,
there's not much you can do.
And by the way, Article 5, Part C says the swim stroke may not be used by the offense or defense to reposition, regain position, or move an opponent from a legally established position. So
that happens a lot.
If you're using the swim stroke to get over the top of a guy, it's illegal too. I just like the fact they put swim stroke in there in parentheses. Anyway, long story short, I don't know how we fix it. I will tell you this, and I promised people I would say this. I like the penalty box. I like the
make
NHL.
Everyone go to the penalty box.
Right. I like the NHL's penalty box, and I think the NBA could adapt that really easily. In that you got to sit out for a one possession or a 30-second shot clock for the other team or whatever, however long it is, and make it 5-on-4 basketball or 5-on-3 if there's two guys with fouls or whatever. But the NHL does it, and they don't automatically award the other team a free shot at the goal, but the NBA gives you a free shot at the goal. I don't like that. This, if they initiated a penalty box where you went to the penalty box after a foul, it would eliminate that thing that I hate at the end of the game, which is we're going to foul to stop the clock because we're going to make you shoot free throws and we're going to foul your worst free throw shooter and hope he misses free throws. Well, we're not getting free throws. You're going to go to the penalty box. Is what's going to happen.
Right.
And we don't have to worry about that anymore. Your penalties will literally have to be you trying to steal the ball instead of what they are now, which is I'm going to grab you to stop the clock, which is an intentional foul, and it should be a shot in the ball or two shots in the ball, but it isn't called that way at the end of the game. It would be in the first quarter if you did it, but it's not in the fourth quarter. Inconsistency, again, like I said, drives me nuts.
Right.
All right.
Woo!
Woo! All right, let's talk about the trivia question because that's where we're at. And we should definitely give the trivia question answer if I'm not wrong. Am I wrong.
We should absolutely do that. Let's do that.
All right, so trivia question brought to you by Stapleton Wine Estates, wine with personality. If you go visit the tasting room, I've got some pictures. I'm going to put them up on the website tomorrow. I was at Stapleton Wine Estates, the winery at the vineyard. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. A fantastic place to sit and drink and have a glass of wine. Lots of things to choose from. Something that will please any wine drinker if you're there. They also have beer, cider, soft drinks. It's fantastic. And get a little snack tray. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. Anyway, trivia question: Stapleton Wine Estates. Remember what the trivia question was? Do you remember?
Yeah, quickest foul. Quickest foul.
Sorta. What's the record for the quickest disqualification?
Disqualification. That's right. Who
6
got
fouls
ejected
in NBA history? Who?
Oh,
Right.
six fouls. So
six
so
fouls.
not ejection, just disqualification.
No, not ejection as in 2 technicals. Just you had to pick up all 6 fouls and get kicked out of the game, disqualified.
Gotcha. In the NBA. Gotcha.
In the NBA history. Do you have a guess?
Am I guessing how long into the game?
Oh, well, so there's 3 things here. How long did it take? Who did it? And when did they do it?
I have no idea about the who, but we'll say DeMarcus Cousins because he gets a lot of foul.
Okay.
The when, it's got to be during his era, so we'll say 2014. I guess that's just a guess.
Okay. Who did you do it against?
How long it? I have no clue.
Pick a team.
Dallas. He did it
Perfect.
against Dallas.
That's
Don't
fantastic.
really. It does not matter.
It
Who
does
was
not
against.
really matter.
There's
You're
too
right.
many aspects to this question.
I
The
agree.
question should be how long into the game was
Okay,
it?
how long into the
And
game
I'm
was
going to guess
No, so hold on.
14 minutes.
Let's back up. It's not how long into the game, it's how many minutes of playing time.
12 minutes. Oh, sorry, 14 minutes. 14 minutes is what I said. 14
Okay.
minutes.
All right, and that's where you're going with.
Yeah.
So the answer to the trivia question is that on December 29th, 1987,
Oh, cool.
1997, former NBA player Bubba Wells, who, by the way, went to Austin Peay State University. I have college credits from Austin Peay State. Anyway, then he was playing for the Dallas Mavericks. He was inserted into a game against the Chicago Bulls, right?
Right.
For the express purpose of fouling Dennis Rodman and, slowing down the Bulls' offense. Right. This is where Hack-a-Shaq was born. Right. And Wells fouled out in 3 minutes of game time.
Woo.
3 minutes. Yeah. And Rodman, who's a career 58% free throw shooter, hit 9 of 12 free throws.
That backfired.
And Chicago won 111-105.
You know what happened is the first time he fouled him, he went 2 of 2. The second time he fouled him, he went 1 and 1. They're like, all right, he's getting worse. And then the third time he fouled him, he went 2 of 2. And they're like, all right, we'll see what happens. Next time he fouled him, he goes 0 for 2. And now there's his 3 misses.
Do you know how hard it is?
And they just kept trying to go for it.
Do you know how hard it is to pick up 6 fouls in 3 minutes? I mean
that's you want to talk about how refereeing slowing down the game. Jesus Christ, this was in your era of basketball.
Right. No,
you had guys intentionally fouling.
And I get it. You definitely don't want Jordan or Pippen shooting free throws. You want Dennis Rodman on the free throw line. You're absolutely right.
Of those guys, yes. You do not want either of those dudes shooting.
But that's exactly how it can backfire. But this is literally like the first Hack-a-Shaq episode. And it became a thing after that where, Shaquille O'Neal is terrible free throws. He was 50% maybe. And people would hack him all the time. And sometimes it works. And sometimes it doesn't. And anyway, this one backfired like a son of a gun. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Not only that, you end up in the record books for fouling out in the fastest amount of time, and it didn't even pay off.
You're a footnote in history, Bubba Wells.
You're a highlight in Dennis Rodman's best free throw shooting game ever.
All right, that's probably the best he's ever done. That's all we have for today. We're going to be back on Monday, April the 5th. And right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to have coverage of the NCAA National Championship game because the men's national championship will be Monday. And it may or may not be over by the time we take the air. I'm not 100% sure. I think it starts at like 5 or 5:30. So by 7 p.m., it may be well into the game, but it also may be over. I don't know. But we'll give you coverage, either the result or what's going on right then and there. If you had to pick of the Final Four right now, who would you pick to win it?
I'd pick Baylor. I feel like they're a little smaller than Gonzaga, but I feel like they've got good speed, good size, hard to stop on offense, and that's going to be a problem for most people.
I'm still picking Gonzaga, and that's actually who's in my bracket. So I got.
Well, it would be an unoriginal pick to pick the number 1 overall.
It would be, except that no one picks them this year because why? They never win.
It's because they never overall. Do it. Yeah.
Right. So I feel like they're still an underdog.
It took a COVID year and a bunch of people opting out for them to go all the way.
I still feel like they're the underdog at the number 1 overall seed.
Well, they got to make it to the best UCLA team ever. So.
Okay. Yeah, the best number 11 seed that ever played in the NCAA tournament.
First time UCLA's been back to the Elite Eight since Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook were there.
Oh my God. I feel like I have 3 out of the 4 in my bracket. Right? UCLA ruined my bracket.
Really?
Yeah. If Michigan had 1, I would have all 4.
Crap.
So I did pretty good. So I feel like
that's really good. Yeah.
I feel like this is the best year I've ever done, even with all the upsets. Because I don't think I've ever had 3 out of 4.
My championship game had Michigan and Oregon, and Michigan winning the title. I thought Gonzaga would lose, and so Oregon would be beating somebody else in there. Or no, it wasn't Michigan and Oregon. It was Oregon and I can't remember. But it does because Michigan and Oregon would have had to play Michigan on the way. So it was it was Oregon Purdue. That's who it was, and I had Purdue winning.
Goodness, Purdue really?
Yeah, I had expectations that they just did not uphold.
Yeah. I mean,
talk about a bad pick. And it was the only year I make one bracket this year. Normally I make like 5.
I only made one too. And I think that's as they call it, the bracket of integrity, the sheet of integrity. I think is what they call it.
It's the only one that you really talk about.
Right. It's the only one you have. If you only make one, then that's the truthful one. If you make 6 of them, you don't really know who's going to win. You don't care. You're just throwing them all out there. But we did one bracket, and it is what it is. And this is who I think will win. So it's more. It has more integrity than the other brackets. You know what I mean?
Yes, you hope so.
I'm not hedging my bets. Anyway, I mean a little, but whatever. So we're going to come back on the 5th, NCAA Men's National Championship. If you're listening to the show, please send me your questions, comments, concerns, anything I'm not covering. I mean, if it's on ESPN 8, we probably aren't covering it. But we might mention it. I mean, we could talk about it. But if you have a question, for sure, send us the question or tape yourself asking the question so we can play it on the air and we can answer your question. We'll answer your question on the air. If you send it to me, I will promise I will play it on the air or I will read it on the air and we will answer the question as best we can. I mean, we're not geniuses, but I play one on TV. So keep listening to the show and tune in to Boss Kitty Live for details of their upcoming esports event, that boss battle that I was talking about. I'm going to be lending my voice to the boss battle. You won't want to miss that. Also, later this summer, we're going to be doing a live show from Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. You don't want to miss that either. And if you're in the Hood River or Portland metropolitan area, I don't know that Hood River has a metropolitan area, by the way. But if you are in the metropolitan area, definitely want to come out and see that when it happens. It's going to be later this summer. I will give you the details as soon as I can. Again, we are live streaming on YouTube every weekend. We're on Twitter at Lamm Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamm Sports Show. Email lammsports@gmail.com. I want to thank our sponsors, The Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarns, Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lone Tree Media LLC, and thanks everyone for listening.